So some relief today, quite a few states going back to some activity. I guess the envy of many countries around the world, but it's still going to be hard for plenty, I guess, to be making much money under ongoing restrictions.
Hi, Tom. Well, look, it is a great day in the sense that we're now going to be seeing infinitely more intrastate travel and hopefully a bit of travel across the New South Wales and Victorian borders, because those states, of course, can do that. And I think it is going to mean brushing off the bucket list, and the great Aussie road trip is going to be reborn with the power.
So people weighing up where they might want to go right now, where are some of the areas that are really struggling during COVID-19 and desperately need a visit?
Well, look, it is about some of those bushfire affected as opposed to bushfire damaged areas. In those areas where they've lost infrastructure, it's still going to be a bit problematic to visit. But for those who simply lost all business because they were quite close to the fires, so anything on the south coast of New South Wales and down into Victoria, Gippsland, etc., those people are hanging out for some visitation. And we know from surveying we've done very recently that 70% of those regional communities are very, very keen to have visitors back. And 1 in 5 of those visitors actually wants to go to a bushfire zone.
Well, it's interesting to hear the words of Mark McGowan, the WA Premier, who was saying he's not too worried about the borders. The net impact on WA from people leaving the state to spend their money or coming there is minus $5 billion. What do you make of that attitude?
Well, look, I think the bottom line is that we're all looking forward to this big boom of domestic tourism, and it will be great. But I have to say to you that it's the inbound tourists who spend the most. So your average Chinese visitor, for example, previously would have spent $8,500 compared to $1,000, $2,000 that a local will spend. So in terms of recovery of the industry and states feeling the real benefit, we are going to need to encourage Australians to try new things, and perhaps things that are a little bit more high yield. And we'll have to hope to get those foreign visitors back in an appropriate time frame when the health rules allow.
What about foreign visitors in terms of New Zealand? A lot of talk about this bubble. Would that help or hurt Australian tourism? If you've got quite a small country, New Zealand, how many of them would come to Australia and spend enough money to outweigh Australians going to New Zealand and spending more?
Look, I think it depends upon our own domestic bubble, in this sense that probably in terms of New South Wales and Victoria, which would be the two most likely states to be engaged in the bubble in the first instance if Queensland's borders remain closed, there'll be a big surge of visiting friends and family from New Zealand over into those two states. There'll be a quite good surge, I would have thought, of Australians into New Zealand, into all of those high-yield lodges and skiing and goodness knows what else. But for Australia, a lot of the benefit comes from Queensland, because leisure trips by New Zealanders are 9 times out of 10 going to be into that Queensland beach zone. They're looking for some sunshine.
Well, a few of us are at this time of year, aren't we? Just finally on
Yes.
government assistance, and especially in Canberra, it has been flagged, Margy, that something might be available for tourism. Would you think something like an extension of JobKeeper would be the best fit? Perhaps something else, a new type of design program? Once this JobKeeper is supposed to end, but a lot of tourism hotspots, particularly ones that rely on overseas visitors, are still obviously struggling.
Well, look, and the industry is on its knees, literally. It's felt so much pain with the combination of drought, bushfires, COVID, and now the uncertainty around borders. So with JobKeeper, in theory, finishing in September, that's just going to be drop off the cliff territory for most of our industry. So we'd certainly like to see JobKeeper extended. It's a project and a program that seems to be working. People are now familiar with it. And we'd like to see it go through at least until the end of the first quarter next year. So say 6 months additional.
All right, well, we'll see what is available, and anyone out there thinking of having a holiday, get out there. A lot of people that are lucky enough to still be in a job, of course, have been accruing leave, so get out there and see Australia. Margy Osmond, thank you.
My pleasure, Tom.